Welcome, everyone. Kirsten Trusco with Payments as a Lifeline, and am delighted to be here with two of our PaaL Founding Circle Advisory Council. So thank you both for lending so much counsel and wisdom and trying to teach a bunch of bankers and insurance people the right language to use, how to participate. And thank you both for your leadership in the aid and disaster community with organizations that serve US and globally. With each of you leading organizations that play a different but essential role, roles that are unique to the community. So thank you so much for taking time for this video chat to help educate all of us. I'm hoping we can educate a little bit on the financial services, but more on fiscal sponsors and what a philanthropy network does. So thank you.
Excited to be here.
So one of the uniquenesses in this community, as we're describing how to best interface with financial services and some of our government colleagues, is that there are roles that work as a network. So instead of having to go to each individual charity foundation, you each lead organizations that have that network role and make the community from those who are on the outside easier to understand, easier to communicate with. So in bankers speak, we call those aggregators. I know network is a better term, but each of you have that network role. So Seth, can you share a little bit about PPF, and then what is a fiscal sponsor, and then kind of what's cool and unique about what PPF does?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Kirsten, for having us here. PPF, or the Players Philanthropy Fund, is a fiscal sponsor, which is a really cool, fairly unique structure within a nonprofit space, right? It's a public charity, so it's a 501c3 public charity. And what we do is we're the overarching organization, the umbrella, if you will, for a lot of smaller, well, some small, some not so small, but entities that want to receive a charitable declaration, if you will, but don't want to go through the steps of doing it themselves as a standalone. So they come in under the Players Philanthropy Fund's umbrella, under our tax ID number, our EIN, which gives them the tax deductibility for any donations that come in. And we provide that back office support to keep them compliant, to manage all the inflows and outflows, to make sure that the charities that are being supported or the programs that their mission would like to run are being done, with best practices in mind in the world of philanthropy. And then also more importantly, to the letter of the law, quite honestly, with the IRS. A lot of people get into the nonprofit space, they mean well, they've got the big heart, they've got the passion, but they don't necessarily have the, I don't want to say business acumen, if you will, to make it run properly. And then they get into trouble. So by coming in under a fiscal sponsor type organization, we keep it all clean, keep it all compliant, and so they can focus on their mission and what they really care about, and we take care of the business end.
And Seth, I love that. And with living in Houston and hurricane season on its way, and then fire season, all these things going on, it is so inspiring to watch people wanting to help. And here in Houston, when Harvey hit, we had a number of folks that raised a lot of money. But with a fiscal sponsor, they could make sure that they're complying with legal, with IRS, that the funds are going to whom they're supposed to, which is how we work together. So I'm hoping to be able to refer a number of folks to you in this next season, because it makes such a difference. God bless them for raising the money, but if it doesn't go out compliantly,
it doesn't do any good.
Things that happen.
Exactly.
So Jim, with Good 360's model and mission, and until meeting you, we didn't even know that there was an organization that had the span that you do. Can you share a little bit about Good 360, and then about Good Disaster Response Community, GDRC, and that dedication to disaster and aid?
Sure. We need a couple more acronyms, right? So We'll throw that in there. So Good 360, and thank you for having me here and talking about this. You know, I'm a big fan of payments as a lifeline and what we're doing in this space. Good 360 focuses mostly on goods, products, in-kind giving. So it's a little bit different for us. We typically are trying to make it easy for companies to donate products, and then working with, as you described, a network of vetted nonprofits, the vetted being the important part. To Seth's point, we want to make sure that whoever receives the product, just like funding, knows what they're doing, has the capacity to take it in, has a plan for distribution, and is certified as a 501c3. So all of those are the basics to get started. So we work a lot similarly to PPF, who we're also a fan of, and support many of the nonprofits that Seth's organization brings to the table. So we are an aggregator. I think that actually is a good term to use for us. We're a connector. We're in the middle between companies and nonprofits and government entities and financial entities. So I think it's a good word to use in this space.
Well, one of the things that came out from your year-end report was it $1 billion that
Yeah,
in
actually,
value that was moved last year?
Starting to sound a little like McDonald's, right? So yeah, billion was hard for us to get out of our own mouths and keyboards. We have been averaging, we measure what we do, sadly, by fair market value. It's one of those metrics that we have to have something, and it's what the donor companies claim is fair market value for the products they donated. And we average somewhere around 400 million fair market value distributed in a year, which we've been super proud of for decades. But in COVID, we were in the right place at the right time, if you will, to help out both companies with excess product and then just a bottomless pit of need on the other side. So we tripled our impact for 2 years in a row. And we are at the 1.2 billion fair market value. And we expect to at least reach that, if not exceed it again this year.
That is just amazing. So for anybody who's watching this, look up Good 360 Resilient Response and look at the household names that are part of the foundations, and then a whole range of nonprofits. It's amazing.
Yeah, you said it. Actually, we hear too often that we're the largest donation that no one's ever heard of, the largest nonprofit that no one's ever heard of. So
we're working on that.
Yeah, I know, exactly. That's what we're here for. See, I can't even say it. That's how foreign it is to us to say.
That's just amazing, Jim. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Seth, one of the amazing things, I mean, in the couple of years we've known each other, is the growth of PPF. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like Jim, we've experienced amazing growth for the past 3 or 4 years. We've doubled our business each year for those 4 years, which is kind of unheard of in business, as you know, let alone nonprofits, right? I attribute that to obviously our back office here, you know, running very smoothly and people, you know, enjoying the service that we provide. But we've really made it super easy for potential clients to come in, potential programs that want to be run. We've really streamlined that whole process, and it's been amazing. Obviously, there's some negatives to it. We see a spike in people looking to start up programs when, unfortunately, some bad things happen. You know, natural disaster, fires, hurricanes, what have you, COVID, that sort of thing. But on the flip side, we're here to help them do the good that they want to do. So it's thrilling from my seat. You know, we're now in 49 states and 19 different countries. We have programs going.
Wow.
So it's amazing. When my co-founder and I started this 12 years ago, I mean, we never thought we'd be sitting where we are right now. It's fun. It's an adventure.
Well, I think when we first started talking, it was, you had 135 charities maybe. And what was your last figure?
We're at 384 as of today.
Wow.
So we're targeting getting to 500 by year end. And that may explode as well, as we're forming some partnerships within the crypto community as well to help convert crypto donations into dollars so that charities can actually use them. So we're working on a lot of different things, but it's pretty fun.
Well, and that was a hot topic. I think I've shared with you that I'm
Mhm.
really honored to serve on the U.S. Federal Reserve Bank's Faster Payments Council, and crypto being one of those payment types. And then the key, getting it in and converting it to real life money that you can spend.
Right.
And that's part of it, getting to work with you is you get it in, and then let's get it to the people and the businesses in a way that they can actually use it. Like
Exactly.
MasterCard.
Exactly. So, I mean, in the nonprofit world, people say it's old school and slow moving. It's really not. It's especially when you get, groups like Jim's and ours, we're on the forefront. We want to do things compliant, do things in the proper way, but we also need to stay relevant and stay up with the times. So you always need to be looking of new innovative ways of doing things. From our perspective, new innovative ways of helping our clients raise money and distribute those funds out to their causes and things they want to support. And that's also, why we're working with PaaL as well, and I know we'll get to that in a little bit.
Absolutely. Well, so we talked about roles. The other topic is the funds and delivering to the survivors, delivering money to anybody really, especially cross-border is tough, but to survivors, it has its own challenges, whether it's chronic challenges, homelessness, addiction, some kind of a chronic need gap, or they're affected by disaster. And as you said, we've got a whole menu of those. Also, we're seeing between COVID and the Ukraine crisis, the supply lines are challenged. And then staffing, just spoke with a maritime group and they said, we can't get enough staff for the ships. So even if we've got the goods, we have the ships, we don't have the people. So part of when PaaL was stood up, we wanted to make sure that we had the right financial institutions and payment companies and created best practices and codes of ethics for banks and financial institutions serving this market to enable funds to get to people faster, more secure, and then controlled for waste, fraud, and abuse. And Jim, at Good 360, you delivered your quote. Give us your quote on right
goods to the right people at the right time. Yeah.
Excellent.
The
So,
mantra.
and it's amazing. You've also had a stat that you've shared about all of your goods are donated for a purpose. They are solicited donated goods, but what's your stat on the unsolicited?
Boy, you are learning the language. I love it. That's right. So we're solicited because we go after relevant, critically needed products. So we only take in as a donation what we know is going to be needed so that we can distribute it out. But in disaster, people's heartstrings get pulled, passion takes over, and they do what they think is the right thing in the knee-jerk reaction and donate what they think might be useful. And it turns into closet clearing and items that are not needed, lots of clothing that are used. And then companies start to do the same thing. And they clear out warehouses of product that might be needed. And that causes really significant problems. 60% of products that are donated in disaster end up in landfills. It's a number that's been confirmed over decades. We're going to take it on this year to re-update the stat and put a survey around it. But it's staggering, and we see it in some cases. It's worse than that. What it does is actually causes a problem where those unsolicited goods take away the time that volunteers and staff were going to do something else. They were going to go build a house or get somebody out of danger or do something related to the mission. Instead, they're sorting through piles of what turns out to be garbage and finding a way to get it out so they can get the good stuff in. So unsolicited goods is a significant problem for us. Solicited goods, to your point, are super valuable, especially the ones that are donated as a needs-based giving platform.
Well, that's to your point, and that stat has stuck in my head, and was running it by some government folks. And one of the ladies who's been a leader in government for 25 years in the Caribbean, and she was saying there's been lots of hurricanes, right? And so there's donated goods that come in, and they come in containers, like shipping containers. And she shared that in some cases, those are just sitting off the coast.
Yeah.
Like garbage at this point, right? They don't want to bring it on because then they have to dispose of it.
Right. Islands are the worst case scenario because they're just going to come and they're just going to stay. There's actually talk about using some of those to create man-made reefs. That's how bad it is. They're not going anywhere. They might as well do something with it, but it's definitely not good.
Absolutely. So thank you for your support when we did the proof of concept last year. You rallied a number of your foundations, and we had the payments as a lifeline, the good cards go out and tested. The feedback on that, the thing that was the most illuminating to the bankers was the pie chart that showed the category of spend, because to us that was just data. Like we see that data all day long. But when we were able to share with the people who contributed the money in and say, this is how the money was spent,
Right.
11% to transportation, 15% food, whatever it was. And it was this galvanizing moment. It was that after action report on that call, and them saying, well, so we can report back to our donors how the money was spent.
Right.
It was amazing. And every time that's come up, I'm so glad you had us do that and explain. That's one of the things.
Hard to keep anybody's attention after they see that chart, right? Because it just is something that data in the disaster space is a void. There's just not enough. Some of the universities are doing great work, and it's just not shared. FEMA's got tons of data, and they make it publicly available, but not in consumable chunks. So data like that, that's easily understood about what the needs are. I mean, basically what it shows is what did people need to buy, right? Survivors, what do they need in that particular situation? And it's something people have been asking about for years and years. So they have it readily available through this process, this platform, really make it valuable.
Well, on that, so that it's a fintech platform, as you guys know, it's been around for 10 years. They've just repurposed it for disaster. But we were at this government conference last week, and we were explaining the same thing. And they said in the past, if money was to be deployed, you just give it to the person or the charity or the business, and you had no idea how it was spent. And we said, well, now we can report back. So you've got this whole series of data points. When did they activate the account? How far did they get from the disaster when they activated? Where did they first stay? What kinds of food? And as you know, it's all anonymized, so nobody can see how Jim or Seth spent their money or their behavior. But of that $10 million of aid, you can see from the incident zone how people fan out and what's needed. So we'll know next time hurricane hits Houston that you need diapers out this far, water out this far, transportation, food.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it was just never available before.
It's never available. It's something that's been projected. At Good 360, you mentioned the Good 360 Disaster Recovery Council, the GDRC. We took it on as a project, and it took way too long to figure out that we actually had the best information already based on what we were distributing to nonprofits in disaster was more than anybody had and that we would be able to collect. But yeah, this opens up brand new doors around that side of data.
What the government folks liked, and we had FEMA and DHS, and pick your acronym that's related to disaster and aid. And they had some of their data geeks there, and they were just so excited because this was data that's never been there before. And they said, so forensically, we can see how it was spent, but then forecasting.
Right.
So
That's
it was
yeah.
So Jim, you've shared a number of times the importance of getting the right goods, right
people,
right people, right time. Well, it's yours. So anyway, but we've also talked about getting money to the right people, not the fraudsters, the right time. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's very similar in terms of concept, with getting the right goods, the right people, the right time. What that really means is making sure that there's very little waste, that the right products get to who needs them at where they need them, and in time. And with money for survivors, it's even more critical. Good 360 is an in-kind organization. We deal with products. But even we say in early stages and immediate response of both disasters and humanitarian events, and even in many other need gaps, cash is king. It's painful to say because we want the products, but what we know is the people who know what they need are the survivors, the people living in those challenging life circumstances that they didn't plan for. They know what they need. And us trying to help by getting the right products to the right people at the right time is really noble, we'll say. But it'd be a lot easier if we could just give them the money that they need to go get what they need, especially if it's going to help the local economy to stay in good shape and to get them what they need when they need it as soon as they do. So really important to get that money into their hands as soon as possible.
I love that. One of the things that you just teed up was money into the community. So as the payments geek, there's all kinds of settings on the back end of, you can turn off online gambling or adult entertainment. You can also make it a geography. So you could say, so the stores are open now. We want you to shop in these with your local merchants because they need to get back on their feet as well. And it really helps. That resonated really well, talking to a bunch of city emergency managers to say, that's part of our job, is not just you rebuild your house, but that you buy your groceries there and your, whatever it's going to be. And we can see that that's where it is, and we can restrict it within that area.
Happen, right? So it's critically important. They say that if businesses don't come back within 6 months, they're probably not going to be coming back. And so that whole community goes downhill. So getting that in their hands and remembering that, as we heard from Center for Disaster Philanthropy and some other foundations, we don't want to limit to the point that we're eliminating the choice of those survivors, those individuals and families that are impacted, but guiding that spending buying to logical ends, as to Seth's point about construction or whatever needs might be what the funder wanted to support. And one more thing on that is that it also can be used for companies to get funds that they've raised and their employees have raised for their own associates in disaster. So some of the companies that we're working with have reached out to PaaL to talk about that, because it's not just helping a community, it's sometimes helping their own associates who are in need and found themselves in need. So lots of different uses and values for payments as a lifeline.
On that exact point, one of the proof of concept members is a very large employer that was hit with the Kentucky tornadoes. And they called on a Friday evening and said, hey, how fast can we get these funds out? Because they said when they tried to go through other methods in the past, it had taken weeks and weeks and weeks. 5 days. Took 5 days.
There you go.
So it was, but it was because one of the things we haven't talked about is this has to be set up in advance. They were already part of that proof of concept. So with banking, we've got lots of compliance and know your customer and anti-money laundering. All that has to be set up behind the scenes, which keeps the fraudsters out, which is another thing we haven't talked about. But as we know, charity has a lot of fraud just as an industry, as does government dispersals. So we can control for that waste, fraud, and abuse.
Yeah, we call them bad actors in the space for a nonprofit.
Absolutely. Well, if we can keep them out, that's,
Exactly.
and we can, that's what banks do all day long, right? So Seth, you've shared, and from talking to your finance team, some of the efficiencies that come because now you can, it's a unique way to serve your clients who want to get funds out, and it doesn't require paper receipts taped to a piece of paper and cash boxes. You want to share a bit?
Right. No, I mean, it's an amazing tool for us to again, stay compliant, right? But also maximize the good that we're doing out in the community, especially in a disaster situation. You take a flood or take a fire, someone lost their home, they probably, or, their bank or their local community center burned down or was flooded. They don't have a place to go to deposit a check or withdraw, that sort of thing. So having payments as a lifeline and the card be distributed as a way to provide that support it's amazing from a back office standpoint here. I mean, as you just alluded to, obviously we get the data feedback as to where those funds were spent. Can even control some behind the scenes as to where those funds can be spent. If it's meant to help you rebuild your house or put a new roof on your house or something like that, well, you're not going gambling with it. If we'd sent a check and actually got the check to the individual, right? They cash it, that sort of stuff, then we've lost control and oversight per se, which we need to have for the IRS and that closing that feedback loop. But we can't guarantee that those dollars are going to be spent where they're supposed to, or, where they're intended for us to go back to the donors as well and say, hey, here's where your $10 million went, that sort of thing. It's a game changer, quite honestly. You mentioned Ukraine earlier. There's some things in process there too, to assist over there. So it's not just here in the United States. It could be down in the islands of the hurricanes. It could be the Ukraine situation. It gives tremendous flexibility and accountability. Our staff, our finance team loves it. Again, because we have that data. We're not trying to track down where's that receipt from Home Depot for 15 sheets of plywood to board up your windows, that sort of stuff. So it really just makes the whole system work so much more efficiently and smoothly. It's great.
Well, and your team's been fabulous to work with. So guys, we're coming to the end. Thank you so much for all that you've done, all that you do, for educating a bunch of bankers and insurance people on how to be more helpful. And thank you so much. Hopefully we can do this again.
Thank you, Kirsten. I mean, it is a team effort. It really is, from all these different organizations. And, what you've spearheaded and lead with PaaL is really bringing a lot of different players to the table, which is amazing. So we can't thank you enough as well.
Well
Thank you
said.
very much.
Collaboration is key.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.